we watched this movie, and I remember when we got home, I ran from the car to the front door. Like, I didn't even want to be in my driveway because I was so scared.
Yeah.
And I think that what was so affecting about Saw was not so much the gore of Saw, but the fact that behind the gore and the violence was a deeply unsettling philosophy of a killer who I actually didn't completely disagree with.
And that's the scariest part.
And that was the scariest part
Yeah.
for me. And I think that, so for Faces of Death, it's kind of unsettling because I think people might feel disturbed by the ways in which they understand Arthur's arguments.
Yeah.
I'm your daddy.
I can be smart when it's important.
I'm your daddy. I'm
sorry to this
I'm your daddy.
Welcome to Daddy Dailies, a podcast hosted by Not Your Daddy's Films. On a film set, dailies are sent out after a shoot day so you can see the work in progress. Daddy Dailies are conversations that go behind the scenes so you can see what work went into the process and be better armed to succeed in the industry. Daddy Dailies, hosted by Not Your Daddy's Films.
Welcome back to Daddy Dailies. I am your host, Vika Stubblebine, and a co-founder of Not Your Daddy's Films. I am here today with Isa Mazzei, a writer, producer, filmmaker who is redefining horror for the modern age. You're best known for writing and producing Blumhouse's breakout hit Cam, a techno thriller that follows an ambitious girl played by Madeline Brewer, who I absolutely love. I just have to say, like, even before I continue reading this, that the casting across the board in all of the films you've touched is amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm just like always like, yes, click yes, I want to watch for the story and also for the cast. So CAMGIRL is about a woman who wakes up one day to discover she's been replaced online with an identical replica of herself. You are credited as co-filmmaker on the film with director Daniel Goldhaber, and you were awarded with Best Screenplay and Best First Feature at the Fantasia International Film Festival. That was released in 2018 and later went on to become one of Netflix's top 10 movies in 2019. Then you went on to write Sam Raimi's horror series 50 States of Fright, as well as publish your first book, CAMGIRL. Like, I'm like, how have you lived so many lives? Which was named one of NPR's best books of 2019. You have published several short-form pieces in New York magazine's The Cut, Extra Extra, Glamour magazine, and in September 2022, you produced the thriller How to Blow Up a Pipeline, also with director Daniel Goldhaber. And I have to say we have a connection there because I went to school with Barbie Ferreira.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
Who, for those listening, her sister is in the film.
Yes. And wrote the film, actually.
And wrote, yeah. So that film, really everyone listening should go watch all of these. They're wonderful films, and I think if you are an aspiring filmmaker, this is like they're really great pieces of work to learn from, the way they're shot, the way they're told, all of that. Now we are here to talk about Faces of Death. This film was co-written and produced by you, reuniting you with director Daniel Goldhaber, and you also share a film by credit. The film follows a content moderator who stumbles upon a series of violent videos that appear to reenact death scenes from the infamous 1978 film of the same name, Faces of Death. It stars Barbie Ferreira, Dacre Montgomery, Charli XCX, and will hit theaters on April 10th. So this episode will be out, and I hope that you're watching because there may or may not be spoilers ahead. Thank you for coming on Daddy Dailies.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I watched this movie last night. And I had nightmares.
It feels weird saying good, but like good.
No, yeah. And I actually wanted to talk to you because about that, like creating fear. And I want to know how you approached this film in particular, which deals a lot with like what we share online and how kind of all your information is out there. And if it gets in the wrong hands, that can be very scary. But what scares you?
Yeah, I think in approaching this film, it was really about, like, honestly, what do I find disturbing and unnerving? And I realized a lot of that was kind of the violence and the darkness that can exist online.
Yeah.
I grew up alongside the internet, right? I'm like a young millennial. And I think that the internet at its kind of earliest stages promised so much hope and community and connection. And it was this really exciting place where, like, I made my first friends. I
Yeah.
learned how to code. I made little profiles, you know. And now somehow it's turned into a place that's kind of synonymous with doom scrolling
Yeah.
and like addiction and like this sense of dread and anxiety that I have every time I open social media, where I don't know if I'm going to be presented with like a cute picture of my friends at their wedding or like a picture of a war crime. And
Mhm.
you know, every day it's something different. And I think that it's kind of that disjointed relationship with imagery
Yeah.
is kind of where, you know, I initially wanted to work to derive this sense of not even so much fear, but more just dread and, you know, discomfort.
Yeah, and I think something that like along those lines that's explored in the film is how desensitized. Like there's a line that Barbie Ferreira's character has where she's talking about like essentially the idea that people don't feel real when you're seeing them through a screen, and when you've scrolled through 50 videos, it's like it doesn't feel like you're looking at someone's real life, and you can be really desensitized to it. So a lot of the horrors that happen in the movie that are seen through the lens of social media or YouTube or whatever, uh people are reacting like, oh my god, this is so crazy, like is this even real? And I just found that to be a really great way into this story, which leads me to my next question, which is the original Faces of Death. How familiar were you with that when you guys started working on your version?
Yeah, it's a funny story. So the project came in initially, we were sought out by Legendary to
Mm.
adapt Faces of Death, and we had not seen it. We were not familiar with it. So we
Are
went
you
back.
a horror fan?
Well, okay, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I am a horror fan, but I think I'm more of a fan of like less traumatizing horror, less Mondo horror. That
Sure,
was
sure,
like a
sure.
world I hadn't really played in. But when we watched the film, what was so surprising is that I recognized so much of it. And I
Mm-hmm.
realized that I actually had seen Faces of Death, just broken up into little clips that had been kind of fed to me over the years
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
online. And so there were things that I was very familiar with. I think the monkey scene in particular,
Oh, yeah.
which I had seen several times before. And
Yeah.
so it was this crazy realization that all of these images I had interacted with and did have like an experience with were actually all coming from the same source.
That's
And
kind of creepy.
yeah, it was pretty powerful actually. And I think we kind of like turned to each other. We're like, oh, we have to do this. you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Legendary was like, we want to do a remake.
Yeah. I mean,
Of
they did.
sorts.
Yeah. They're like, we have the IP. Like,
Yeah.
are you interested in doing something with it?
Okay.
And so we kind of dove into like, okay, well, obviously the original for, you know, people who may not know, it's,
Yeah, maybe give people the lore.
yeah, the first film came out in 1978, and it kind of gained notoriety when it was put onto VHS.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of, it's a narrator named Dr. Gross, and, you know, like a lab coat is kind of narrating thoughts about death as he kind of shows you this collection of films of dead bodies, films of people
Snuff
dying,
films,
animals
yeah.
dying, snuff films, things like that. And, you know, at the time, it became this kind of like cursed object that people wanted. And I've talked to many people now who say, you know, like, oh, my older brother got it for me and showed it to me. Or like, oh, I had to like, you know, borrow it and copy it or whatever.
Uh-huh.
It kind of had this like
Urban legends
sneaky,
quality.
yeah, like these whispers about it, something you'd watch at a sleepover and then like not tell your parents.
Yes, yes.
I mean, that was in the 80s, so it was long before me, but I do
Same.
people were so young. People do remember it like very
Yeah.
well. It was very formative. Like a lot of people, when I talk to them about the movie, just like, you know, an Uber driver or whatever, they'll say, oh, that movie fucked me up. Like they
Yes.
remember it deeply from those first experiences with it.
Yeah, I think that was one of my favorite aspects had not also, or I didn't think I had seen Faces of Death, but similar to you, I had seen parts of it. And then when I was researching the movie, I was like, oh, it's so interesting, the lore too of people responding to the VHS and thinking it's real. And like, you know, it's shot sort of like documentary style, and people being like, is this real? Is this recreated? And, you know, like, if you imagine a Reddit thread of theories, like people having a lot of opinions and thoughts on the original. And I loved that you guys had the original in your movie, and like literally the VHS is in it and she watches it.
Yeah, it's the real VHS. And also, fun tidbit, our composer used the real VHS tape itself in composing the score. So he actually made sounds and music from the actual strip of tape from inside one of the original copies, like the original prints.
Wow.
He went and sought one out, and that's incorporated in the score too. So we love incorporating the actual physical objects into films. That's like something that I think is really cool.
Is this the first time you worked with this composer?
No, he did Pipeline and Cam.
Okay.
As well, yeah.
Wow. So you guys have a shorthand.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we're very close. I think he's just brilliant. For How to Blow Up a Pipeline, he always comes to set. That's like important. And we always try to incorporate something about the film or the landscape of the film. So for Pipeline, we ran around the desert and like sampled the desert, like violin bow on a piece of sheet metal we found on the ground, you know, rocks dropping down holes, just like the sounds and the moods of the desert.
That's so cool.
The buzzing of like a data center or like a something that was on the ranch where we were shooting,
humming,
and the humming. And so same thing for faces. Like he came out to set and he was sampling everything there.
That's so cool. So, and you as a producer, were you on set the whole time as well?
Yeah. So Daniel and I, when we share a film by credit, it is essentially a way of us trying to explain what our process is, because it doesn't exist by traditional crediting, which is one of my hot takes we'll get to later.
Okay.
Well,
that was like literally my next question was you guys are like this amazing duo, and how do you work together?
Yeah, I mean, we've been working together since high school.
What?
So it goes way back, and we definitely have a shorthand with each other. We definitely have this trust. And if you're watching a film where we share a film by credit, which there's 2 of them now, there will be many in the future. It is a process where we are developing the story together. We are, even if one of us is writing the script, the other one is heavily involved in workshopping it. We're casting together. We're in pre-production together. We're on set, on monitor together.
Okay.
We're in post together. So it's a process that we very much author together.
That's really cool. How did you guys? You met in high school.
We met in high school. We dated.
Oh my gosh,
tea.
the tea, you heard?
Just for a year, but in high school that's like a century.
Yeah, in high school that's very formative.
It's like we were high school sweethearts. Yeah,
that's very sweet. Did you go to college together as well?
No, we went to different coasts, but we stayed friends. I mean, we're still sending each other work back and forth when we were in college.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Did you go to film school?
I did not. No, I studied comparative literature at UC Berkeley.
You went to Berkeley.
I did.
Oh, how fun. Okay, I went to UCLA. But my first experience coming out to California from New Jersey, where I grew up, we drove up the 1 and I got to see LA. And then I was like, I'm going to Berkeley. I love this
It's beautiful.
so much. I love San Francisco. I love Berkeley. I love Oakland. One of my best friends lives there. And I think there's just like a really beautiful quality to the people. Like they're very real, and also like everyone there seems very intelligent.
Absolutely. I mean, Berkeley reminded me a lot of Boulder, where I grew up. Like just like a lot of used bookstores, a lot of health food stores with bulk bins, a lot of vegans, a lot of just like really friendly people with like 5 degrees.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So with 5 degrees. Yeah. Yep. My parents' best friends live there, and like they're a couple that like makes their own furniture and linens, and then also have like 3
They
degrees.
all have PhDs. Yeah, exactly. I'm like the least educated person anywhere I go, and I'm just like, okay.
That's amazing. Okay, so you write this script, and you and Daniel work on the story together and come up with the concept together. How fast was the process overall from that to getting to the actual casting and production of it all?
I mean, from start to now, it's been about 7 years.
Oh, okay.
So it's a very long process. In fact, I didn't write it, but we, conceptualized, wrote, produced, and released How to Blow Up a Pipeline in the middle of doing Faces.
Wow.
So this first came to us in 2019.
Okay.
And I think Pipeline, production was 2021. So
what would you say to folks who are in they haven't had something come out yet, and they're balancing the different processes, like similar to this, where they might have 2 films or 3 films or a television project in this, like how do you structure your time?
I mean, I always have like 9 things at once.
Yeah.
And so I think it's about prioritizing. Like you always have the one that you're like going all in on, and then just keep everything else going as best you can as well.
Yeah.
I think Faces for us, we were in the process of it, and it was just moving a little slower than we wanted. And we just needed to make a movie. And Danny was with some friends, and they had this idea for How to Blow Up a Pipeline. And he was like, do we just go do this right now? And I'm like, yeah, let's just go do it.
Hell
you
yeah.
know?
I love that. Um, okay, so I wrote this is not a question. I wrote, I am scared. Please tell me these actors are okay and set was fun.
Oh my God. Set was very fun. It was such a fun set, but I love that you wrote that.
Yeah, I was like, are they well?
I think, no spoilers. I think Barbie, I have never seen a human being work that hard, physically speaking, in
Yeah.
that final scene. Like the amount of hours of just screaming and fighting and like stunts, like
Yeah.
I was like, how is she not passed out right now? Like, I
Yeah.
can't conceive of this.
Yeah, speaking of her, and like she's such a leading lady. She's so watchable.
Yeah.
I really really enjoyed her performance. And how do you go about how do you feel like you're making the right choice? Like, are you having, outside of auditions, are you having meetings with actors or offers or whatever it might be? Are you having coffee? Are you like,
Yeah, I
what is
mean, we
that?
met with both of the actors
Mhm.
in person, but I think that process comes from the collaboration that Daniel and I have, where we'll just bring actors to the table that we're excited about, that we like, that
Yeah.
we're fans of, and then we'll just talk about it and argue about it and
Yeah.
send each other clips of the actors in the middle of the night and be like, no, you're wrong. Look at this snippet
this
I like
person."
screen recorded from this Netflix show or whatever, and we're like, I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah, I get very passionate about actors because I studied acting prior to writing, and so I just love a performance. I'm like, oh, they really did something cool and interesting, and I'm so in. Speaking of Dacre, the villains, why? How important is that to you, or to both of you, as conceptualizing this story? Because I think in a horror film, you've often got your tropes. You've got your Freddy, your Jason, you've got your final girl. And I think some of my favorite aspects of a horror movie specifically are how they subvert or play into the tropes of the genre.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the why of both Barbie's character and your villain is really interesting. And I was curious, when that was, that very early in the process, or how important is that to you as a writer and an audience member?
Yeah, I think pretty early on, I kind of figured out what their motivations were. I think for Margot's character, the backstory came a little later, but I do like telling stories about someone who believes in the system and then kind of becomes disillusioned with the system.
Yeah.
If you'll notice, all three of our movies that we've done together, spoiler, they all end with someone posting, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
Because actually, journalist Charles Bermesco pointed this out to us, and I was like, oh wow, I do write about people posting.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? For me, it feels like a way to like reclaim power in a world where you don't have power. You feel like by posting you can somehow prove something to yourself, and I think those motivations are the same for Margot and Arthur, and that's what makes two characters really interesting, is when they're on opposite sides but they actually have the same motivation.
Yeah. Without giving it away, Margot goes through a traumatic experience prior to the movie beginning, and I found that even though you guys really tease out what happened to her in an interesting way where I didn't know completely, I knew something was really motivating her desire for like a righteous, just world. And she's working as a content moderator, which is something that I've thought a lot about also as a young millennial in the age of Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, and Facebook being on trial. I read Careless People from one of the women who worked at Facebook in the early days, talking about a lot of what you were saying at first, where it felt like this hopeful place where people could connect, and where like policy could be changed, and like I could talk to somebody on the other side of the world, and it was just, and how that has in a way disintegrated towards people's like capitalist aims or whatever. And I think that if you are a millennial or anybody who has experienced internet culture, this is the movie for you, because it's very resonant. So that's not a question, that's a compliment.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think Arthur says it all right. He has this line where he's like, "It's the attention economy, baby, and business is booming." And I think we all know that,
Yeah.
and we all still participate in it.
Do you think with Arthur, it is? I found him scarier because he was so soft spoken and you didn't quite know what was going to happen next. Was that an active choice? Like, was that in the script or was that an actor's choice?
That was Dacre. Dacre
Okay.
brought so much to that character that was incredibly helpful. He tapped into that character in a way that was very cool to witness. And I think he really brought out a lot of Arthur's like idiosyncrasies, like the obsessive compulsiveness, the kind of the strange body movements, like all of that came from Dacre just really embodying the character.
Yeah, very, very cool. The villain and the hero, they're hiding behind IP addresses, which is really intense. And there's this like really thrilling split screen moment. And how did you guys come to that? It's sort of where everything's coming to a head. They're investigating each other. Were you informed by like actual stories of stalking or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember one horrifying story of I believe a girl in Korea who a stalker found her based on the reflection of a street sign in her pupil from a kind of like a high def photo that was posted of her. I know a lot of, growing up, I kind of learned how to stalk people via their IP address. Back before they were private, like you could just kind of send them a link and get them to click on it. And now, there's a lot more protections in place. But back in the like wild west of the internet, I was like 12 or something. I remember doing that.
Yeah.
And so it was based on a lot of this like idea of like, okay, how do you actually protect yourself online? How do you actually protect yourself from being doxxed? And like all the stories of people getting doxxed or stalked or tracked, just how much of our lives is online. Especially I will say in this country, like a lot of other countries, your data is a lot more protected.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't really think about that.
Yeah, like here, depending on the state, but in most states, you can look up someone's address based on their voter records. You can't do that in a lot of other countries.
Yeah.
Like, why can you do that, actually? But there's a lot of things, growing up, I was always the one people were like, hey, can you find this person for me? Can you find my ex? Are they dating someone new? And
and you were able to.
Yeah, I mean, any of us can do it. There's like that joke online, like your friend who's the FBI agent. That's me. I'm that friend.
And you're saying this, and I'm like, I literally just did this. I thought a guy was cute, and I was like, knew his first name.
Yeah, and you can figure out where he works. You can figure out if he's dating someone.
Yep.
You can find his wedding website if he's married. Like you can find all that stuff.
You can. I had not quite like a full blown stalker, but to that story about the woman in Korea, I had a person find me because someone. I reshared a public post on Facebook. I was not public, but it was like their missing cat. And the person found me through that post by calling the number on the
That's so scary.
It was terrifying.
That's so scary.
The violence on screen. What do you think is so effective about seeing something like that violent and frightening, of course, on screen? I looked away so many times, and I think that it was almost the anticipation of it that also played into the fear. Was that difficult for you to write or witness once you were in post?
No, I mean, I think I should say, like, I do like gore.
Okay, good.
Like one of the earliest movies that was really effective and like formative for me was Saw, like the first Saw.
Ooh,
When I first saw it, I think I was 14, maybe younger. I was not emotionally ready to see it. I was like at a sleepover with like the cool girls, and I mean, like they were cool in like a very like punk kind of way.
Yeah.
And we watched this movie, and I remember when we got home, I ran from the car to the front door. Like I didn't even want to be in my driveway because I was so scared.
Yeah.
And I think that what was so affecting about Saw was not so much the gore of Saw, but the fact that behind the gore and the violence was a deeply unsettling philosophy of a killer who I actually didn't completely disagree with.
And that's the scariest part.
And that was the scariest part
Yeah.
for me. And I think that, so for Faces of Death, it's kind of unsettling because I think I think people might feel disturbed by the ways in which they understand Arthur's arguments.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's actually the most disturbing part of any killer is when you actually see parts of yourself in them.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. Yeah, I think that is also partially, and to what you were saying about them sharing some similarities, in their opinions on internet culture. Like, Margot doesn't have a smartphone and she doesn't have a laptop. And I loved those choices because they were interesting character choices, but also because they created obstacles for your plot.
I think it's funny. All of my main characters kind of skew towards being Luddites a little bit, which I think is interesting because they're also always dealing with the internet.
Yeah.
And I think that's like such a perfect example of what I struggle with as a filmmaker, as an artist, is like this tension between like wanting to throw my phone in the ocean and also like loving the internet and everything that it's given me. And I think that you see that with Margot. You see that the kind of actually all of our films have characters with flip phones in it.
Yeah.
It's actually my phone from high school, not the literal phone, but it's always a pink Motorola Razr. Which is the phone I had in high school. And I think we might be at the end of the props department being able to get those phones to actually be functional.
Oh.
Because we do all the screens practically. So like we're right at the edge of it. But yeah, I'm glad you noticed that because it's an important thing to me that whenever you give a character an older piece of tech or an obsolete piece of tech, you're immediately telling the audience so much about the character that you don't have to explain.
Yes. How did working on this change your relationship with the internet, if it did?
Yeah, it did deeply. I was kind of part of my role in producing this film was sourcing a lot of the content that we see on the actual screens in the movie. So when she's moderating, a lot of that moderation content I went out and sourced. And, that meant hours and hours and hours for weeks of watching snuff and accidents, and then kind of having to distance myself from that in order to figure out how to license it for a studio movie, which is also like a wild process in and of itself. And I think that grappling with that and grappling with like what I was even doing and if it was even the right thing to do, like that to me kind of got me off my phone actually after production. And I definitely stepped back. I deleted TikTok. I put my phone in grayscale. I was like, I'm gonna try to not scroll as much. And I still am deeply addicted to my phone, but I'm not a saint. But it did affect me, the process of making this movie, for sure.
I just assumed you guys recreated those for the film, not instead of sourcing them.
No, some of them we created, but most of them are sourced.
Yeah.
We wanted the internet to feel authentic. I think that's something that's so important to me, is that the internet feel real. So like all of the Reddits that you see are real Reddits that I made, that I wrote for different characters, all the usernames I came up with, all the profile pictures. I had help. It wasn't like just me, but for the most part, I kind of had a hand in all of the depiction of the internet, because I think so often in film that's something that's overlooked or glossed over as not important. But oftentimes people ask me like, why do you make movies that have so much internet in them? And I'm like, I'm just making a movie about life. Yeah. And this is life. Yep. And people who ignore it, to some degree, it feels disingenuous. It's almost like such a fantasy to create a story where no one's on their phone or looking at their laptop, because that's not how we live.
Unfortunately.
And
however you feel about it.
However you feel about it.
But it's a challenge as filmmakers, because I think sometimes my fear is if people are texting a lot, or if it's a lot of phone calls, I feel differently about, but texting a lot or on the internet a lot, I find myself being like, will this be cinematic? And I think you guys totally achieved that. And in a movie that is about it as well. So there's like,
Thank you. Well, going back to the split screen thing, I think anyone who's worried about putting the internet in their film should go look at that split screen as an example of this, like, and I'm giving credit to Danny where credit's due, because that was his idea.
It was
brilliant. I think it's so effective and such a good example of how the internet can be cinematic. It can be used to build tension and suspense. You can be on screens for a long period of time and deliver a lot of information while also not being too overwhelming. Yeah. And I think like for us, since making Cam, which also obviously has a lot of internet in it, our goal has always been like, when I watch a movie and someone pulls out their phone, it looks so boring. But when I pull out my phone, it's the most exciting thing in the world. It's like little candy.
The dopamine.
The little colors. And so that's why my phone's in grayscale. So how do we make the internet in cinema feel the way the internet actually feels.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that is always at the forefront of the work that I do.
And just hearing you speak about that, I think is like for the filmmakers listening is the best takeaway is how does it make you feel versus like, am I depicting this, you're approaching it from a character sensibility. Who are they? How does it make them feel? How does it make the audience feel? How are you as the creator? What is your relationship with it? Which I think is ultimately always going to lead to specificity, which is going to make your story interesting.
Absolutely. And I think for people who are listening who are filmmakers who don't know this, this is kind of an argument that I always get into with people is that a lot of people don't know you can just shoot social media. Like, you can just put Instagram in your movie. We did. Like, you can put Facebook in your movie. You can put Google in your movie.
Because it's public.
It's public. As long as you're using it as a platform as is intended and you're using usernames that you actually own, you can just film real.
Yeah.
So, there's no reason to think, oh, I can't have a social media platform in my movie because I can't create it.
Yeah.
You just can film Instagram, and sometimes it's about reminding the lawyers that this is possible because people just are so accustomed to like, oh, we have to like make a new messaging interface.
Right.
You just use iMessage. There are some rules.
Of
like
course,
killers, for example, can't use Apple products, which is a fun fact.
What?
So that's why Arthur in the movie, all his tech is Androids. Android PC.
They're okay.
You can use Androids and PC if you're a killer.
Android,
but no,
PC, or like, sure, why not? Yeah.
You cannot use Apple products if you're a serial killer. It's true.
That's amazing.
Just imagine like a real serial killer listening to this with his like MacBook. Being
I
like, like, they don't know.
Please don't come for us.
Yeah. Yeah. On that note.
Well, you mentioned Cam, and I think like there is a thread through your films having women as central characters. Like, there's a scene in this movie where it is Barbie and 3 men, 2 of them being police officers, and I felt so seen as a woman
Thank
in
you.
that scene. Not because I've ever dealt with anything this horrifying, but because she's not being believed.
Yeah.
And that is throughout the film. Her boss is not believing her. Her roommate is like, I think you might be, abusing your pills or whatever. And I was like, this could all be solved if you just listen to her.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that how it goes?
Yeah.
Isn't that how it goes?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think that is, I mean, I know you're of course informed by your experience in the world, but is that something you like specifically wanted to be in there to show like these 3 dudes?
I think it's just accurate. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, I think that's just an experience that a lot of women have in the world is not being believed, not being heard, having to over-explain themselves or repeat themselves to have their point heard or made. And I think that I knew it would be instantly relatable because it's just honest.
Yep.
So I didn't necessarily set out to create a scene to make a point. I set out to create an honest scene of what would happen in that situation. And that is what I think we all know would happen in that situation.
And the dread you feel watching it, just knowing, oh my God, they're not gonna, she's so close to winning. And then
And we have a similar scene in Cam, right, where she goes to the police and they also don't believe her. And in Cam, we have the fun fact of the fact that none of the lines said by police in that movie are written. They're all lines that actual police said to actual people, either people we know personally, or some of them were lifted from news articles of people who had gotten doxxed and the responses the police had to them. So I think it's like, yeah. So
again, specific and good story.
Yeah, again, it's just being honest, right?
It's about
it's
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so mad. And I was like yelling. I was like, just believe her.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd love to talk a little bit more about your role as a producer. You were talking about being on monitor together, and I know there are obviously DGA rules and giving notes and whatnot, but what is your partnership like? Are you having a powwow at the end of every day? How are you working together as a team?
Yeah, I mean, we're usually driving to and from set together every day. We're discussing everything. We share a film by credit because we view ourselves as co-authors of the film. And that's kind of the best way to say it.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes it doesn't make sense in the context of like IMDb credits, but I think if you like take a step back and just hear that for what it means, that's exactly what our collaboration is. We are co-authoring this film. We view it as 100% his movie and 100% my movie. We said that about Cam. It's true about this one as well. And it's something that like you could not possibly tease apart. I mean, aside from maybe the split screen, which was definitely his idea, it's impossible and kind of pointless to tease apart what parts are from me and what parts are from him because it's something that we created together.
And anytime that you create something with a partner, like I have a co-writer on some film projects, and I don't know what line she wrote or what line I wrote in the script, and it's not important. It's just the cohesive vision that we're on the same page.
Yeah, and we have a rule in our collaboration that is if one of us doesn't like something, it means it's not right. And sometimes that can stall us out for weeks. Sometimes we can get stuck on something and I can be like, I have a solution. I know what it is. Or he can be like, I have a solution. I absolutely am 100% right. And we'll fight it out. And it can take weeks sometimes or longer. And then whenever we arrive at the thing that we both actually like, it's always magic. Like it is so freaking good. And so it's worth it. And now, you know, after doing this together for like 18 years or something, we trust that moment is coming. Yeah. And so when I don't like something or he doesn't like something, we don't even have to, there's no ego. We don't have to be like, well, I think I'm right. We just like let it go. We're like, you know what? If you don't like it, I know that there's something better and we'll just keep looking for it.
Yeah. What was the first thing you guys made together?
Oh God. I think it was a play. I can't remember which came first. We did a short film and a play in high school, but we did
a short film in high school. That's very impressive.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, well, don't
just that you had the ambition to do it. I did. Yeah.
We were both very creative. Yeah. We were both very creative. The play that we did, Danny wrote. It was about a man slowly dying of insomnia. So we've always kind of been in a dark place.
I love
it. But yeah, we've had this this creative collaboration since we were 15.
Yeah, that's really, really special. The cinematography is really, really beautiful, as is the lighting. It's all very effective. How do you find the right fit? Like, this is more, I would say, an advice question for filmmakers. But I think department heads and making sure that you're building a team that is all part of your vision is so important. And I'm curious if you found a way to guide a conversation so you know that you're when you're bringing a new person on that it's going to feel right.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the first step is like finding someone whose work you like, making sure other people like their work too. That, you know, that's like an important obvious step. But I really think there's a chemistry thing too. Like I really think that the environment and the vibe on set is so important, and knowing that you can collaborate with someone and like have those conversations, especially on set every day. It's just problem solving. There's going to be problems and especially with a DP, you need someone who can adapt really well. And Isaac is brilliant. Like he's not only incredibly talented, but he is just so nice and fun to be around. Aww. And so the three of us on set together, you know, like we got there early and we'd be like talking through the shot list or whatever. And it was just like, it just like gave me energy for the rest of the day, you know, and that's what you want. You want to work with people that fill you up and that you feel really excited and energized by their creative ideas. And Isaac had so many. And I mean, the film's shot on 35. It's absolutely beautiful.
It's beautiful.
And just talking through the lighting with him or seeing him adjust things, I was always just blown away by how well he did and then how well he adapted to our notes or our collaboration, you know, and the three of us worked really well in tandem together. And I think that's something that you can't really put your finger on. So like I always recommend, like, especially with crew heads that are going to be this close to you, meet them in person. Yeah. Like that's important. You're going to be spending so much time with this person. Meet them in person, sit down, get a meal, talk to them, ask them about what movies they like, you know, just feel that part out of it. 'Cause that is also as important as how good they are at the physical craft of their job. Yeah. Because that can really make or break a day on set.
I think that everything you said is important, but something that has really proven true time and again for me is people who can pivot on a dime, you know, because to your point, problem solving is part of making a film and it happens every single day. And I think that I also really love what you said about if we don't agree, there's going to be something better. And I think that as much as this industry can attract ego, the more you can remove that, the better your experience is going to be. And the final product ultimately, I think, will be too.
Always. So. Filmmaking is a huge collaborative effort. And the more you hire people who you trust that if they don't like something, it's not the best, then they're going to also push you to be your best. I don't know how to tell a DP to like do everything perfectly. Like, I'm going to say things that they know better than me, and I want to do that. That makes me a better filmmaker. You know,
Mhm.
we learn from each other, we push each other to be better.
Yeah. How long did you have to shoot this film?
I think production was 24 days, I believe.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots
Yeah.
of blood.
And then we had some pickups too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you, okay, so pretend someone's watched this film and they're like, oh my God, I didn't know I loved horror, but I love horror. What are some films you would guide them to next? Like, do you have favorites?
I have a lot of favorites. None of them are necessarily the same
Oh,
vein
that-
of
yeah.
this, but okay, Saw is
Yes.
great. The
Yep, yep,
first
yep.
Saw is amazing. As Above, So Below is
Wait, I
one of
haven't
my
seen that.
all-time favorite horror movies.
Oh.
Highly recommend.
Okay, I'm gonna
It's
watch
so
it.
cool.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say anything about it. Like,
Okay.
just
Well,
seek it
because
out.
with full disclosure, I started I had that sleepover experience you were describing, but
Mhm.
it was The Ring, and I
Mhm.
had a panic attack, and my mom was like, "What happened? I don't understand." And it took me years to watch another horror film,
Mhm.
and then in the last like 3 years, I've watched a lot. I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I think I actually like horror," and so
Yeah. Yes, we got you. We
Yes,
got you.
I'm fully in. So
Um,
there's a bunch I haven't seen or
Mhm.
got to experience for the first time as an adult. Yeah.
That's actually really nice. I wish
Mhm.
there were movies I could go back and watch for the first time.
Yeah,
So that's
it's
nice.
special. Yeah. Back to the source material, so to speak, being inspired by the original Faces of Death and involving it. Was there any element to creating this new story that was like, was there a challenge to working with the original material and finding a new way in?
Yeah, I mean, the original material is more or less I won't call it a mockumentary. It's more like a faux documentary.
Yeah.
So there's absolutely no like narrative hook to it.
Yep. Yep.
But we had just we were not afraid of unadaptable material. I think How to Blow Up a Pipeline, I would also say, is like an academic like essay. It's not a heist movie. And so I think that material that is maybe at first glance not adaptable is something that's very exciting to me, just like as a writer, as
Like
a
how to
creative.
crack it.
How do you have a way in? And I think I told you when we watched the documentary or the fake documentary of the original Faces of Death, I was like, we have to do this. Like, it spoke to so many things that I wanted to talk about. And then it was about, okay, what's a narrative that can be the vehicle for talking about these ideas?
Yeah.
And it was always like how to preserve what the original did. And that's really hard in 2026 because in 1978, a lot of the reasons people sought this out was this was the only way to see death.
Yeah.
It was almost a curiosity, like a morbid curiosity of like, I don't know what this looks like. Now, when we grew up, I assume we're around the same age. I remember like my first visual depiction of death was people jumping from the World Trade Center. And I was in elementary school. I was way too young to see that. And it's seared in my brain forever.
Yeah.
And I think from there, we've only had more and more access to violent imagery all over the place that we're not seeking out. It's just coming to us.
Yeah.
And so how do you kind of recreate the themes and the feelings of the first one now, years and years later, when our relationship to violent imagery and digital imagery has changed so much?
Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah.
think it really, I have to commend the whole team. It's a really exciting watch, and it also leaves you thinking, and it's got all of the elements. And what you're talking about with experience death, I had the same experience. I was in elementary school, and we talk a lot about these milestones in life and like firsts, but I think something that often gets glossed over is like your first brush with death, like losing a loved one or seeing something you shouldn't see, or a horrible accident. And that is very formative for a lot of people. And so I think in a way, this is like, it scratches an itch to see a film that explores all of that in the catharsis and the truth of it. Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah,
of
I hope
course.
it feels resonant.
Yeah,
You know?
it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Okay. So I love hot
Like-
takes. Yeah. Will you share your hot take with us? This is our section where we talk about an opinion related to filmmaking it can be positive or negative, but just, an opinion that you feel is a little bit more singular to you.
I have a couple, but we can start with the
I
first
love
one,
it.
which
Yeah.
is that I think that every member of the cast and crew should have points on the back end
Ooh, I love that.
in the movies they work on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Say more.
So for those of you that don't know that are listening,
Mhm.
points in a film is like a tiny percentage of an ownership of the film.
Mhm.
And typically it goes to like above the line
Yeah.
talent producers. So like the main actors, the producers, the writers, the director.
Negotiate for it.
You negotiate for it. It's part of your contract. It basically means that when the movie sells or streams or, is a box office success, then you'll get a little piece of that money as well. And I just think that like films are such a collaboration and that everyone should own, like, I don't know. My crews work so hard and I see them killing themselves for these films. And I think that no one makes a movie like who doesn't love movies. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just mean like when I'm working with a costume designer, that costume designer is not just like dressing people to look cute. She is orchestrating an entire backstory in her head of how this character, like I'll bring it back to Faces of Death. Like Margot, our lead, she's someone who's depressed. She suffered a trauma. She's probably buying her clothes at like Goodwill or secondhand. She doesn't really care about how she looks. And our costume designer is digging into this entire psyche of the character to build out an entire world that she inhabits. What is her favorite sweater? She has her favorite sweater in the movie. What is her favorite sweater and how is it worn because she wears it every day? And does she rub a certain sleeve more than the other sleeve? And then how does that sweater play in with the DP and how he's lighting the scenes and how we're shooting? And are we doing mostly nights? Are we doing days? And how does that sweater fit into the color palette of the film? And what is it communicating to us about her relationship with other characters when she's wearing the sweater or not? And a costume designer does that for every single piece of clothing that is in the film.
Yes.
It's crazy.
It's
and then
amazing.
to say that costume designer is not somehow also a filmmaker and doesn't deserve, like, yes, absolutely. Like, we are all owners of this film. We all created this together.
100%.
And I just think that should be better reflected in how we're compensating filmmakers, especially in this era where we do have streaming, we do have residuals, we do have movies that go up for sale after a certain tenure on a certain platform. And I think that the crews that work on them should be compensated every time that happens.
I completely agree. We had Laura Jean Shannon on the podcast who designs all the super suits for the boys. She did Iron Man, but she has a background in like model making and there's just so much it's like having all these degrees, right?
Yeah.
Like there's so much of research and knowledge that goes into it. Just like you studied literature and I studied musical theater. And like, I know I have all this knowledge on musicals. It feeds into every single thing that they're doing. The first time I made a short film ever, I had a friend come on as my production designer because we were all doing favors. And the questions she was asking me was the first time someone had been like, okay, so, is she single? This person's bedroom. What, what's her job? How much money does she have? Where does she buy, And it opened my eyes to so much more that I could be putting into my writing or my directing or whatever, but also to like all of the layers of what these departments are doing, not just the department heads, but the set dresser and the people who are doing the buying and the distressing. And I think it's something I have so much respect for, and I get like so excited by it and like the questions and it informs everything. And the fact that you shot on 35, like it informs how it looks and shows up on camera and how the light hits it. And it's just
like the textures of the fabrics are going to look different depending on what you're shooting them on. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And a costume designer knows that.
And to that end, there's, I think one of the creepiest things about your villain is this sheer like almost tights that he's wearing over his body that's like a nude color, and there's something to it that has him blend into a lot of what he's doing with the mannequins and whatnot. And I found it so eerie, and I think that that color choice and texture was very evocative. So,
yeah, absolutely. Dacre had I remember he like tried on a bunch of different, he was like sticking his hands in different stockings being like, no, it needs to be thicker. Like he had a vision for what Arthur wanted. And that's how dialed into Arthur he was.
I love that. Yeah. And because we didn't talk about them, I have to say like Dacre, Barbie, you have Jermaine, Charli XCX. Like, you have a really wonderful cast. Josie, like,
Josie,
yeah,
and Aaron.
I really loved Josie in this. It was like so endearing and playing an influencer who's also involved in the story. And you show all the sides of who internet culture can affect.
Yeah, our cast was amazing, and I think they did a great job. We have like the coolest cast. And like it's undeniable. I think they released at one point when we announced the film like a grid of like all, I think it was the 6 of them, all their heads together, and I was just like, this is iconic, actually. I was like, how are they in my movie? Like, how did this happen?
I mean, it happened because the script is amazing and you guys are wonderful filmmakers. But that does transition to me. My hot take, which is not hot, was that I think everyone should be hiring Barbie to be the
1,000%
of their projects. I just love her. If she's listening to this, you're wonderful. But to what we're speaking about, I think I was just at South by Southwest, and my hot take is that I love what film marketing people are doing right now. I feel like they're really doing some very cool, interesting things to promote films. Like Ready or Not 2, they had a screening where everyone was in ponchos because they got sprayed with blood the entire time. And it's like evocative and immersive, and I'm really enjoying what's happening with the film PR because it feels like it's helping it be more of an experience to go back to the theaters and to the movies and be a part of like a cultural collective. Like, we're all having this experience. It's like we came out of Barbenheimer and everyone was like, okay, I have ideas.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so great too, because I think, something about the pandemic and that timing of like no one going to theaters for a while, we kind of forgot what that's like.
Yes.
And I think we're also so media literate now that we know when we're being advertised to. And I know when I see an ad. It doesn't matter if an influencer is trying to pretend they haven't been paid to, say the thing. I'm like, I know what's happening. But I think like doing more fun, like immersive experiences or like, jewelry collaborations I saw recently for a film. Like, there's so many interesting ways to kind of get me to pay attention and also engage me creatively and with my friends. And that's really fun.
I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah.
Well, we are officially out of time, but where can everyone find you, find your work, and continue to follow your filmmaking journey?
Yeah, I mean, definitely follow me on social media. Now that I've talked about how great it is, all my socials are at Isa. ISA is wrong.
Is wrong.
Isa is wrong. Just in case I say anything you don't like. I know. I am self-aware. That's I do post, and I'm going to be posting all through kind of the promotion of this film. So
amazing. And Faces of Death is out April 10th.
It's in theaters April 10th. Go see it in the theater. Go bring your friends. Bring your friends and don't tell them what they're going to see.
Ooh, that's fun.
Like your friends that did that with The Ring for you.
Traumatize
them. I don't know.
Traumatize your friends.
It's a movie that I think is really, really fun to see in a theater.
Yes.
Especially the ending. That's all I'm going to say. The ending really hits in a theater.
I love that. Yeah. I think just what we were just saying about the cultural collective experience, you want to see this with your buddies. So you need someone to cling to. I think I'll do that. I'll bring people and be like, you want to go see this comedy?
What's the title? I don't remember.
Thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure.
Having me. Thank you.
Yay.
Daddy Dailies is a production of Not Your Daddy's Films, a social impact organization dedicated to educating and empowering women and non-binary creatives in TV and film. If you like what you heard today, click subscribe and leave us a positive review. If you want more Daddy episode insights and to be the first to know about in-person events, follow Daddy Dailies Pod and NYD Films on Instagram and TikTok. Daddy Dailies is edited by Vika Stubblebine and Carly Tamarin. See you next time, Daddy.